Hey, gang. 99.1 WDJY, America One Radio, and the rest of the Mastiff Media Network. I'm brain for Mars. That's it. Mars is off today. We're going to return with Psycho and the Psychic in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have a sit down and talk about a better format, not just a better format, but exactly what we want to do. And she's also cleaning some other things up. So back to regular up the middle for today. And today, what we're going to talk about is how the media is even admitting that they've lost control in this past presidential election and how we, the little guys, kind of got it. That doesn't mean that I personally am a big deal, although I like to think I am. But so many other smaller, we'll call them independent outlets that have had a bigger influence, especially on the far right and the far left. We'll have Kathy Barthel joining us in a few minutes to discuss just that. Actually, there was something else I needed to pull up, and I forgot it. Of course, my mom's going to give me crap for this, as she does every week. Why aren't you better prepared? Well, I am. It's just that I'm solo. Here he is. We talked about this guy before for today's morning motivation. Give you a little bit of an insight. Let me share this here. I was already sharing something else to show you I was actually prepared, but here we go. There he is. You can give us a call at 1-888-88-YERGS if you've got questions for Kathy. And she's a former newsroom exec and now consultant. Like I said, we'll be talking with her in a little bit. But today's morning motivation is from a guy by the name of Paul Hewson. If you don't recognize the name, maybe you recognize the face. You also know him as Bono from U2. He said in the past, what turns me on about the digital age, what excited me personally, is that you have closed the gap between dreaming and doing. That's where I met Kathy, actually. We have a Thursday morning call that discusses the creatives, podcasting, and other types of creative juices. Paul goes on to say, it used to be that if you wanted to make a record, you needed a studio and a producer. Now you need a laptop. And maybe that's why so many of us are finding some level of success in our own home studios. Mine is really currently under construction. Fortunately, we're no longer in what is now a cold garage, but we are back on the air after Hurricane Helene in a very small hiatus from that. Fortunately, we got some good kudos from a lot of our listeners and viewers and fans that hell or high water, we stayed on as long as possible. And that was because exactly what Bono is talking about. A big studio and all the equipment that comes with it isn't what's needed to really broadcast at a quality level anymore. And that's why so many of us are now able to do this at home, on the road. I've done stories in my neighborhood of burning buildings and electrocuted construction workers, and so many other different things that are prominent and necessary for the community to know about. And that's really what Mastiff Media is doing, is bringing local news back to local markets by local people. So let's bring out our guest, Kathy Barthel. She's going to talk about with us exactly what's been happening in the media space. And let's get rid of Bono. There you can see Kathy. There you go. Good morning. Hello again.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Very well.
Excellent.
So you've been in newsrooms. Now you're a consultant. You're obviously part of this switch. You've made the switch yourself. What is it, do you think, that is causing the so-called mainstream media to lose their grip?
Well, first I should say I have a background, just to put it in perspective, and I'm a Canadian. Oh my God, what's a Canadian got to do with this?
That's all right.
But to give it
we
some
sometimes call our Canadian friends the 51st state. but then
Exactly, right?
Puerto Rico gets upset. So,
Exactly.
um,
Yeah, my background, just to be clear, is as a former arts journalist and in reporting on television and film and so on, and architecture and design, lots of different things, and in television, both on camera, co-hosting, interviewing people, and behind the scenes in production, whether it's writing or casting or producing, and a lot of work in the online space as well. And so, you know, when I think about where we lost our way and so on, way back, speaking to the Canadian thing, way back when I started, I was a photo editor at a magazine that some of your audience may remember. It was called TV Guide. It was the
yeah,
thing that you used to throw across the living room at somebody over there when you were trying to figure out what was on television before we had the internet. And at that time, everything, as always, is about relationships. And so I was a photo editor, I would interview photographers, I would direct photo shoots and whatever. And I would make regular trips down to New York to go to all the major networks and get photography, right? And I always was able to get original photography rather than duplicate shots. Back then, it was something called slides. It
yeah,
wasn't even digital, it was just on the cusp of that. And it was all about relationships. And what happened was, we did really, really well at, because of those relationships, getting really great art. But ultimately, in the US market, TV Guide Canada didn't matter at all, right? Like we could put
yeah,
a fabulous show on the cover, didn't do anything for, as we were talking earlier today, Yergs, the Nielsen ratings, right? Didn't
right.
matter at all. But it was the strength of the relationships. And through that and through all of these years, I've worked very closely with Americans, whether it was in production areas, photographers, producing people, PR, publicity, marketing. And there's a lot more we have in common than we have, that separates us. And, I love my years in media. I will always be a media person, a TV journalism person, but you can get, in your own bubble, right? And I remember in the 90s when it started to happen that writers were putting themselves into their story, right? I was at the, so and so's house and I was coming to see whatever celebrity. And as I was pulling up the driveway, and I used to think, I don't give a flying who the heck what were you were doing, and I'm here to listen to the story of who you spoke to. And it used to really tick me off. And of course, as we know, with social media and influencers and everything, the interviewer has become so much a part of the story, right? And the whole entertainment aspect of news and information gathering, and the idea that seems so delightfully old school, and yet I think it's coming back around, is this idea that it's about balanced reporting. It's about respecting your audience so much to make up their own mind, that you're telling them both sides of the story. You're putting it in context so they can make an informed choice and be an informed citizen. And I think it started to get off the rails back then in the 90s when that happened. And then I remember distinctly in 2000, I used to write back in that era for the Canadian version of, Variety or whatever. It's called Playback in Canada.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've heard of it, Yergs, but it's like the industry magazine for, the TV and media and film industry here. And of course, because there's so many co-productions and everything in the States and here, it again brings in the American side. And I wrote this very, very robustly reported piece about what was happening in Canada in the media at that time in 2000, which was all the buyouts, right? All of our various players were swallowing up other smaller players, and we were starting to have very, very few voices. And that has only increased, right? So you do have, less people on the ground, less local reporting. And it's been a number of things that have happened, right? But I think also, the major media, the networks and the legacy media was the only player. And that was the case for such a very long time. And you're trying to move this beast of legacy media that doesn't move as fast as you and I and other players in the online space can.
So when you talk about influencers, and we'll call it a celebrity status within the journalists themselves, do you think that the targeted audience and the targeted, like when you tune in up the middle, it's always me? Do you think that is something that helped elevate us independents? Or is it the slowness and the cumbersome movements of the mainstream of the bigger networks that slowed them down?
Well, it's interesting. When I think about the sort of halcyon days of, say, US media, when you had a Walter Cronkite or somebody that everybody trusted,
Hmm.
we are actually having that happen with somebody like you or other people, in the independent space now, where it's taken that a level deeper. Walter wouldn't be sharing some of the things that we might share with our audiences now as
Oh, believe
independents.
me.
What's that?
Yeah, I hit the
Right?
TMI button quite a few often.
but this is the thing. We are, you know, since I've moved on into being an entrepreneur and I coach people, business owners, about how to be on camera and how to do video, that's the thing that I think is what has shifted and is one of the reasons that people like yourself are becoming successful. It's because people are thirsty for a genuine human connection. We're so hungry for something that's a real person, and I feel like I can identify with that person. And I think, traditional media legacy is trying to do that, but they have such constraints. When you watch things and you're just sitting there as a former journalist, and you're always a journalist. I think a lot of these things, if you
Mhm.
ever were one, you always have that mindset. But so often with traditional media interviews, I'm sitting there thinking, go deeper, ask the question. You haven't asked the question that you feel it and it's coming up in you as a listener or a viewer, and they're just going past it because they got an ad, they got something they got to do. And I think there are certain elements of the makeup of that beast, that same as with newspapers and so on. When they started to die, their way of making money from ads, has caused such a shift in their viability. So I think, as a roundabout way of answering you, I mean, that is, you know, there's Walter Cronkite 3 steps deeper at minimum that's
Yeah,
happening, and that's a real
but
plus.
you hit on another, what would we call it, division of
Mhm.
journalism, and that is the newspaper. I remember earlier in my Secret Service career, I was in San Francisco from 2003 to 2007. And a friend of mine there worked for the San Francisco Chronicle. And again, this is early 2000s. And he called the death of newspapers just because blogs were becoming such a huge source of news. Do you see the mainstream media ever learning their lesson and becoming more modern, more up to date, more adapted to the current electronics and to the current speed? You said about the cumbersomeness of a network versus an independent. Do you see them making the changes? Chris Wallace just said he left CNN to explore the podcast space. What is it that a network has to do to remain competitive, or a major newspaper has to do to remain competitive?
Well, sadly, I think it's like what often happens in human nature, right? We don't make a change until we're absolutely forced to. And we might see down the line, this would be a good idea. Gee, I'm kind of feeling there's some red flags, but it's still working, so we're not going to mess with it. And I think that's what is exactly starting to happen. And sadly, as we see in news reports, various of the cable networks and other, CNN, there's a lot of talk about, people being potentially let go there, and who knows what's going to happen in the new year vis-a-vis layoffs in various of these organizations. So sadly, I think that's, you know, what's going to start to happen is, and already, as you say, various people have left and have started in the podcast space who are faces we've known from legacy media. So it's absolutely already happening. And, I remember when newspapers were going down the tube, so many of them, and all these paywalls started to come in, and they're just, again, it's such an old model, right? And it doesn't flip that fast, to something else. But I think it's being forced to, absolutely being forced to. And ironically, when I think about your show, I was saying to somebody this morning, if you think of the early days of television that we hear about in the 50s, and it was live, it was like this, but it was
Right.
on studio, no one knew what they were doing, and people loved that. Of course, it was fresh. They'd never seen that before, literally never seen that before. So I think what's happening is they are being forced to. And the next year or two is going to be really telling, to see, especially because of the election you guys have just had,
Sure.
and how they've covered that, and where the shortcomings have been, and the clamoring people I think are going to have more and more in the next months and years for more balance, to be more informed, because I think more and more people may find that they actually didn't have all the information they should have had, and why didn't they, and to
Yeah.
survive, people are going to have to change in the business.
Yeah. I've been saying the information comment you just made for a while. Well, that's a whole other episode.
Yes, it's very frustrating. Very frustrating.
But
Because I come from media, like I say, and for me personally, there was, when I look at it now, there's no better career I could have ever had. Because I tell you, one of the things you learn in media, especially if you're working in television, but probably anywhere, is, and I always say this is the best way to become an entrepreneur. If you ever have this training, you're gold. And that is, when you're working on a TV show of any kind, if the camera's there, the floor director's there, everybody's there, the producers, everybody, hair and makeup, everything's done, you're there. And if the person that's supposed to be in that chair is not in that chair, it's like, hey. I ended up in a show I was producing. I ended up on camera because somebody didn't show up. And it was a show about, it was a hairstyle challenge. I ended up going home that day with hair extensions, which if you've ever seen me in person, I desperately need. So there can be benefits. But oh my God. But the point is, yeah, that energy of, okay, what's the workaround? That's the thing you always hear in television. What's the workaround? How are we going to make this happen? Time is money. We're all sitting here. We got to shoot something. Who's getting in the chair? Right. And it's that feeling, I think, that if legacy media, it may not be their personal experience, those who are in it now and are worried about whether they have a job tomorrow, but to tap into that spirit is what I think, if it is going to be reinvigorated, is what legacy media needs to think about. Because there is nothing like that rush. You know it, doing your show, right? It's like,
yeah.
Oh my God, who am I interviewing today? It doesn't always come together, and you got to make it happen. So
yeah. And thank you for the last minute ad today. Because of that, we still need to get some information from you that I'm going to put up right now. Where can we find you?
My website is called takeontheworld.ca. You can find me there. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find me on YouTube under Kathy Barthel, Kathy Bar, like bar, Thel. And you can talk to me anywhere there. Happy to chat. I'm so grateful for you to invite me, because this is something I'm very passionate about too. So it's wonderful to chat about it.
Do I have everything right running across the bottom of the screen there?
Let me see, Brady. Yes.
Yeah, we got to talk about that quick too.
Okay, guys. All right. Okay.
The Brat brand.
Yeah, the Brat brand. Long before blessed, wonderful, fabulously talented Charli XCX decided to put out an album this year, God bless her, called Brat. Back in 2013, I launched a blog called Bratty Kathy. And I've been developing this brand for, ever since 2013. And in 2021, during the pandemic, I launched a show called The Brat Show. Brat is an acronym, okay, for women who are bold, relevant, addictive, and transformative. And the whole process, the whole idea of Brat is to empower women who are going to disrupt the status quo to create positive change. There's a whole little bit of that element of naughty brat in there, absolutely, in terms of disruption, but it's about helping women really own who the hell they are in the world and be that person, and then get out there and make the change that is in them to do, that drives them to do, that's going to make things better. Not quite as Pollyanna as that sounds. There's definitely an element of mischievousness and cheekiness.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm developing a podcast, a solo podcast for that as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
thank you for asking.
Let me know when you're ready for that. We'll have you back on to talk more about that. And thanks for joining us today to talk about the media. Kathy Barthel, thank you very much. We'll see you again. I'll see you next week.
Yep. Thanks, Eric. Ciao.
All right. Thank you. When we come back, What's next? Yeah. Pierce Pot. When we come back from a quick commercial break, 99.1 WDJY and America One Radio. We'll be back after this. Smell nasty. Do you want to freshen it up a little bit? Go to aromabypeter.com. Check out all of Peter's candles. It's what we burn here in Studio Yerg's. I'm burning right now leather scented candle. That's right, leather scented. So go to aromabypeter.com/Yerg's and check out his candles today.
I'm Jane Stahl, retired English teacher, and with my BFF, Susan Bebeck, we manage Studio B Fine Art Gallery in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. We showcase the art of hundreds of local artists, publish books of the poetry, prose, and art of local writers, offer classes, art parties, workshops, discussion groups, cater dinners. We've even hosted a wedding. And we're here to be the go-to place for friendship, learning, and fun in our community. Virtual tours of our exhibits are available right here on Yerg's Radio. Let us introduce you to some amazing art and artists.
Check out Jane Stahl and everyone at Studio B in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. Please visit our YouTube channel, Talk TV 24. How's your website doing? I'll tell you how mine's doing. It's awesome. Yergs.com is gotta be the best website for anybody in podcasting or any sort of broadcast solo journalist like me. How did I get that? Limit Break Digital. Limit Break Digital did my website with Yergs.com. They did YergerGroup.com. They take care of my marketing, my branding, and help me get the message out to you. Go to limitbreakdigital.com/Yergs for 10% off your next project. That's a $3,000 site, Yergs.com. And you can get 10% off that by just going to limitbreakdigital.com/Yergs today. Talk to Jay. That's my guy. We all got a guy, and Jay's mine. limitbreakdigital.com. Hey. All right. So definitely thanks to Kathy for joining us. You can find her again, takeontheworld.ca. That's Canada. Or on YouTube at Kathy Barthel. Let's get rid of all the things running across the bottom because we got some other things to talk about. It's done. Every time I'm sharing something, if it's not the same type, I got to stop and pick up to do a tab instead. So we're talking about how the fact that the mainstream media did not do as well this time around with this most recent presidential election. The Christian Science Monitor also has an article saying the same thing. Who's the real loser? The mainstream media. And it talks about a lot of the different, in this case, I see one of the biggest things is the fragmentation and partisanship. We know the mainstream media is predominantly left. Fox likes to say how Fox News is the number one cable news channel for America's source of news, as they say. Well, first of all, in open court, they've said that they're not news. So that's one, and that they're more entertainment than anything. I just watched a YouTube presentation or an interview with Hassan Piker, who's an independent like I am, and is, way more established than I am. Not afraid to admit that. But he doesn't call himself a journalist. He calls himself entertainment. Yet again, he's another source of people's news. But when we talk about, in this case, some of the partisanship and how Fox wants you to think they're actually leading the way, among individual networks, perhaps that's the case. But if you take the percentage of the market share that's owned by CNN, and the percentage that's owned by MSNBC and CNBC, etc. All of the ones that have this left-leaning slant, there's plenty of room for something else on the right because they outdo Fox News more than 3-1. So there's definitely a left-leaning and an admitted one within the mainstream, at least American and pretty much global media. Also, PBS did a similar, how the news media doesn't run elections. Why do they call winners? I'm saying the same thing here. The same thing I've been saying as to why they do polls, why they take whatever information, and 99 times out of 100 accurately call a winner. Sometimes it's controversial because it's too early, but when they use their system consistently, I think Fox News and I think it was Brett Baer who called Arizona 4 years ago and took some grief for that, but he stood by it and was correct. But ultimately, there is an effort to keep themselves relevant with polls. If I'm taking a conservative and a progressive candidate, and I'm taking a poll from Florida, I already know the different counties of Florida and how they lean. So if I take 49% of my candidates, of my pollsters from Hillsborough and Pinellas counties, the counties that have Tampa and the cities of St. Pete and Clearwater, respectively, where I know they're more progressive or liberal, and then I take the remaining 51% from the surrounding counties, like Pasco, Polk, Manatee, I know what the outcome is going to be. And so that's why when it said it was close, and now all of a sudden Trump won, there's another article here. I don't know if I have it up or if it's just from the Google search, but there's another one saying that Trump did not win in a landslide. I never thought he did either. I thought he won decisively. The video that we played earlier this week is something to be looked at. This is not it. I don't know what this is. But the video from earlier this week is something to be looked at, where we talked about the bullet ballots. But the media outlets are doing the polls to create a level of relevance amongst themselves, to keep themselves in the game. And voters are seeing it. I think on one hand, perhaps some of the Democratic supporters thought they had it in the bag. Like, I thought it was going to be decisive, like it was. I just didn't think it was going to be decisive in the direction that it was. And that really mobilized the conservatives to make sure they get out and vote. This has happened before. 2016, everybody thought Hillary Clinton was going to win, and she didn't. 2000, everybody was rallying around Al Gore, and it didn't happen. So if we, the voters, need to learn a lesson, it's that we've got a job to do too. Or somebody does it for you, and it might not go the way you want it to go. All right, up next, Pierre's Pot. I got to get the, give me a second. I had this. For a guy, Pierre Robert. In honor of Pierre Robert, of 93.3 WMMR, Philadelphia, a radio DJ hero of mine who has been on the air since 1981. We toast the morning sauce in the direction of our good citizen of the day, an honored listener. Today, we are picking my earlier video. We can take this down. We're picking my earlier video that I watched for the past couple of days. It's about an hour and 20 minutes long, of an independent guy just like me, just like so many of us, named Hasan Piker. He is Turkish. His uncle is Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks, the guy who kind of famously ran for president this last time around. He's not an American citizen by birth, so he can't, but still popular from the Young Turks broadcast. Hasan's thing is that he admits he's progressive, that he's left-leaning, and he's okay with that. It's who he is. He critiques guys like me who try to present an equal and unbiased view. I've got a bias. I don't like Trump. I make that known. There's what I believe are valid reasons for not liking and supporting Donald Trump. And as such, is what it is. I think everybody needs to follow me because, of course, I'm right. Who doesn't think that way? But today's recipient of Pierre's pot, and that, of course, is a pot of coffee. You got to put the graphic up there. What am I doing? There we go. Pierre's pot goes to Hasan Piker, a toast of the morning sauce. You can't see that, so there we go. A toast of the morning sauce, coffee in your direction. Well done. And dude's in like his 30s, so he's doing really well. He's got a really nice pad just south of West Hollywood in Los Angeles by what used to be Studio City, CBS Studios. That property, by the way, that lot, now empty lot of the former CBS Studios, sold while I was there for more than $1 billion, just the empty lot. Right alongside of one of the more popular shopping malls. I'm brain farting on what it is now. But I loved going there too. Really well done place. It's like a small town by itself, and it kind of allows you to get out of the whole LA thing just by going to this shopping. They dial it up right around now, this time of year, for Christmas. And it looks like a small Christmas, like a train set. In fact, they've got a train that runs through it. It's very cool. All right, one more break. And when we come back, I got some other news stories to talk about. Trump's at it. So 99.1 WDJY, America One Radio, and the Mastiff Media Network. We'll be back after this. Do you have a podcast? Of course you do. It's probably one of the reasons why you listen to us. Well, I got something for you. Flowsend.ai. All you do is take your pre-recorded data, click, drag, and drop right into the inbox for Flowsend AI. Click a button, and out comes everything that you're going to need. From the transcript to content, such as keywords, titles for your episode, the timeline, posts for LinkedIn, posts for Twitter, Instagram, other smaller platforms, all the things that it takes you hours to do in literally minutes. So go to flowsend.ai. Tell them Jurg sent you and get your subscription today. Worth every penny. Flowsend.ai. All right. So for the two remaining stories today, I think I'm going to do this one first. Look at this. Look at this. I got to turn it on here. Hold on a second. There we go. That is the price of Bitcoin. Why are we not investing in that? Right now, I've got some in Doge, just because of one of the other things we'll talk about, and that's cabinet positions and who's doing this, that, and the other thing with whatever Elon Musk. But up 3.1% today, up almost $3,000, just over a day. Oh God, I cashed out in the past couple of years about half this, and just I remember when it was in the teens, and it was a big deal when it made like 15,000, 12,000. I remember the first time I ever heard about Bitcoin was at a Christmas party when I was living in DC. Some guy comes up to me, and this was back when you had to have a guy like the guy that came up to me. Some guy comes up to me at my neighbor's holiday party, starts telling me about the fact that he's a Bitcoin broker, and he wants to help me invest in this thing called Bitcoin. And I'm like, I had no idea what he was talking. What is what? Maybe I had a few to drink and had a few alcoholic muscles backing me up. But I mean, he starts talking about Bitcoin and how I should invest in it. And my reaction was,
first of all, what?
That's what I said.
What?
Oh. So my reaction was exactly that. It was what? And what are you talking about? Well, I don't want to tell you what the price of Bitcoin was at that time. And if I would have taken all the money that I have since invested in Bitcoin and done it in that moment, there's a whole in life, there's that whole coulda, woulda, shoulda thing, but also there's the issue of the one arm of my chair is broken. There's also the issue of, hey, do you like your life now or not? And I do. I mean, it's not without obstacles, of course, but I do like where I'm at. And who knows? I basically invested that amount of money that you see on your screen there in day trading, in Bitcoin, in whatever. And I lost portions of it. So I obviously don't have it all anymore. But I'd say that I'm up overall throughout my career. If I would have been able to put that into Bitcoin when it was, we'll just call it $1,000 a coin, I would have been able to buy 97 Bitcoins. Okay. Now that is the price of one Bitcoin. So $97,178.92. Let's just say I bought 90 Bitcoins. I would have $8.75 million. If I would have hung on to it, if I would have known to hang on to it, if I wouldn't have needed it like I did in the meantime. So I definitely think Bitcoin's the bubble that Warren and Charlie, I'm brain farting on Warren, Charlie Munger, and I'm brain farting. I can't believe I'm brain farting. I got him here. Hold on a second. He's one of my screensaver things. Warren Buffett. There we go. And I didn't even see it. And I still thought of it. Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger both called Bitcoin a bubble. That was 14 years ago. Charlie Munger's now dead. I think Berkshire Hathaway has since admitted to investing in Bitcoin. I'm not sure. But clearly, this is one very strong bubble that if it bursts, there's bubbles underneath it. And they're still going strong. But there it is. It's floating with 100,000 right now at 97,178. See if I can refresh that. See if there's a price change. Oh, maybe I'm a curse. It's down to 97.26. But I think we know that's just a supply and demand thing happening. We'll be right back up. Up next, and we'll wrap up today with that Biden has become noticeably quiet after the 2024 election and the Democrats' loss. Look, I agree with political scientists. I don't know that 14 is the number I would put on it. I don't know what number I would put on it. I do know that the legacy that he is going to leave is going to be a positive one, whether he's talking or not. I think we're all quiet right now. When I say all, obviously, I mean people who have not taken part in the election or those who lost or those who are over it. Maybe you voted for Trump, but you voted for Trump. You won. Time to go back to doing whatever it is you do. And that's it. But Joe Biden has been, and I've noticed this. In fact, I was surprised to see the authorization. I was glad to see it, but I was surprised to see the authorization for Ukraine to use the longer range missiles. I think they should have been given that, like I said earlier this week, I think they should have been given that authorization a year ago, longer than that. This is a shot of him arriving on Tuesday at Joint Base Andrews after coming back from Rio and the G20 summit. This is him at the G20. A tour of the museum of, it looks like Walter. From Jeff Dunham. See if I can put this up here too. Yeah, that's Walter there in the. Looks kind of little, especially right to that face that he's making right there. Yeah, definitely looks like Walter. They did do. Oh, I gotta find this. Give me 1 second. There we go. There it is. He did turn Walter into Joe Biden. Here it is. This is the best picture, best two pictures. Oh, there we go. Oh my God, look at this. It is, I mean, hello. Look at that. Look at that. So for those of you listening on radio or social media, social audio, I'll get a screenshot. I'll get the links. I'll put it in the show notes. You can get the show notes as always by going to yergs.com or finding other places where you can find the info at masstup.media. But here's a photo of them both with their arms crossed, both the same. I mean, the scowl that Walter always has on his face. Walter's sporting a pair of Ray-Bans, like Joe's Made Famous. And there's another one. There's another one with Walter. Instead of in the ridiculous bow tie, he's actually in. I'm just looking at some of these. I mean, here you go. And this is actually a video that's available on Twitter. But I mean, look, he put a little bit more hair on him for that. I just noticed that. There's a little bit more hair on top to represent the slick back do of Joe Biden. But enough about with puppets and whatever. More importantly, I see we're all quiet. I'm seeing the Facebook posts about how we got to stop crying and whatever else. And like, nobody's been crying. I'm concerned. I'm worried. Not just about myself, but about my country. And I'm seeing enough people already showing buyer's remorse with how they voted or who they supported and how they supported that person and why they supported that person. There's the one Facebook. All of these are on my phone, unfortunately, so it's a little bit more challenging to transition them over in the spur of the moment. But there was a thing, if you don't understand, if you have a gay friend and you don't understand why they're scared, then you don't have a gay friend. You know a gay person. And that's so true. I got two brothers that supported Trump. Why? I have no idea. We've got our theories, whether it's supposed financial benefit. Yeah, the arm of my chair is broken. Whether it's financial benefit, like things like capital gains, but neither of my brothers, independently or part of whatever company they're with, are big enough to really see the total benefits of the Trump tax breaks. Yet they would have seen the small business benefits that Kamala Harris would have implemented. My whole family are gun owners, gun carriers. So is Kamala Harris. She's a gun owner. Does she pack when she has a Secret Service detail? No. But yeah, I think there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of research that could have been done, should have been done. Go back to summer 2023. I don't know how many episodes I did on not only how to fact check, but why you need to fact check. This is why. Because then you go electing somebody that nobody belongs electing. And Jane and I had been talking about this for the past 2 episodes together every Monday. And she made the comment of what her husband actually said. Sometimes the parent needs to let the kid touch the stove. Meaning that you as a parent tell your child, don't touch the stove, it's hot. You're going to burn yourself. You're going to hurt yourself. And they reach up again and don't touch that. It's hot. And constantly you tell the child not to touch the stove. Sometimes you need to let the child touch the stove. Downside to that is, in this example, we're all touching the stove together. And we all get burned. Not good. So apparently his only public discussion of the outcome of the election came in what is timed as a 6-minute speech in the Rose Garden 2 days after the election, where he urged people to see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. And to, as David Beckmeyer would say, bring down the temperature. Since then, there's hardly been a public peep, including over the course of Biden's 6-day visit to South America that concluded this past Tuesday evening. His only public comments during the trip came during brief remarks before meetings with government officials and a climate-related speech during a visit to the Amazon. My kid's calling. All right, let me go to a commercial. Take this as the second time he's called, so we'll see what he wants. 99.1 WDJY. We'll be right back. Smell nasty. Do you want to freshen it up a little bit? Go to aromabypeter.com. Check out all of Peter's candles. It's what we burn here in Studio Yergs. I'm burning right now leather scented candle. That's right, leather scented. So go to aromabypeter.com/Yergs and check out his candles today.
I'm Jane Stahl, retired English teacher, and with my BFF, Susan Bebeck, we manage Studio B Fine Art Gallery in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. We showcase the art of hundreds of local artists, publish books of the poetry, prose, and art of local writers, offer classes, art parties, workshops, discussion groups, cater dinners. We've even hosted a wedding. And we're here to be the go-to place for friendship, learning, and fun in our community. Virtual tours of our exhibits are available right here on Yergs Radio. Let us introduce you to some amazing art and artists.
Check out Jane Stahl and everyone at Studio B in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. Please visit our YouTube channel, Talk TV 24. How's your website doing? I'll tell you how mine's doing. It's awesome. Yergs.com is got to be the best website for anybody in podcasting or any sort of broadcast solo journalist like me. How did I get that? Limit Break Digital. Limit Break Digital did my website with Yergs.com. They did YergerGroup.com. They take care of my marketing, my branding, and help me get the message out to you. Go to limitbreakdigital.com/Yergs for 10% off your next project. That's a $3,000 site, Yergs.com. And you can get 10% off that by just going to limitbreakdigital.com/Yergs today. Talk to Jay. That's my guy. We all got a guy, and Jay's mine. limitbreakdigital.com. Hey, gang, it's Yergs. Right now, our country is about... Sorry about that. So we'll finish up today's show with a proud moment. I just got off the phone with a kid, and he's asking for help paying for an alignment for his car, which he's done, I really believe, a fine job taking care of, by and large. Some other things he did to it that maybe he didn't have to do to it, but he's taking care of it, and he's getting an alignment done right now. I'm going to ask him how class went, because he should also be in class. But he's getting an alignment done, and he wants me to help pay for it if I could. And I shouldn't, because my budget is tighter than his right now. And I told him once I get paid at the end of next week, I'll give him some help then. But he's got like $1,400 in his checking account. And he's got other money in his savings account that I don't have access to because I can't see he did that after me. And it's fine. It's good. He's got money in savings. I think it's about another $1,500. Basically, he's sitting on $3,000. And when I asked him, even though I was already looking at his account, and I didn't realize I didn't have to ask him anymore. When I asked him how much he had, he said that the alignment's going to cost like $150, which is good. Yeah, it is, but I know he says he actually thought that was a lot. I'm like, no, that's actually pretty good. I said, how much do you have? And he says 1.4. Of course, he's only talking about 1,400, 1.4 thousand. But he's talking about 1.4. And yeah, it just made me smile, and that he's using the big boy money terms. And he's asking me for help when, he can get 10 cars on alignment. I'm going to struggle to get one done, and I still got to get struts for it. So, yeah, the joys of being a daddy. But your Joe is, I think we're all silent right now. I think maybe there's a little, I wish I wouldn't have dropped out, a little buyer's remorse on his own. Mathematically, Kamala did not do as well in 2024 as Joe did in 2020. And, we've talked about that ad nauseum. So, I'm not going to worry about that. Tomorrow, what did I tell the guys we're going to talk about? For tomorrow's with Matt and Blake. Up the middle, Jergs Radio, Rob Winter, Safety Up the Middle. Tomorrow, join us right here on Up the Middle as we compare Hitler to Trump and vice versa. I've made 3 points in the past that recent happenings, I believe, have confirmed me to be right. One, that Trump is the next Hitler, that we are in civil war in the United States, and globally, we are at World War III. Join us tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific, 4 p.m. in London, for local time in London, as we discuss those 3 items. Blake Fisher from The Homeless Conservative joins us, Matt Deemer from the Daily Crypto News. The 3 of us will be having at it tomorrow right here on 99.1 WDJY, America One Radio, and the rest of the Mastiff Media Network. We'll see you tomorrow.